Alright, so I'm going to make an apple in Blender. So to start off, I want to get rid of this square, so I don't want to use this square. I'm going to use a cylinder, and I'm going to add the image of the apple in the background, just as a reference. This way it's a little easier to match the size that I am looking for and all of that. So we'll go to View and Front, and then change to the perspective so we can see the apple image. So I zoomed in a bit. I'm going to move our cylinder down a bit. Then, now that's at the base, I'm going to deselect, and I will go move this up a little bit and enter edit mode. And I will select surfaces, deselect everything. I hit B to select a control surface. Then I'll switch back to front view, so now I can see the apple again. I'll drag the cylinder up to the top, and then deselect the surface again. Now I'm going to switch to wireframe mode. This way I can create a bunch of little cuts so that I can form this curved shape along the apple. To do that, I'll go to Tools, and I'll go down to Loop Cut, and I will click and drag down and create all of these little cuts on the surface. This way I can drag them out and create the curved shape of the apple. So by doing this, you just click and drag down, and I'm not clicking and holding it down and dragging. I just have to click once, pull down and hit it, and you just do this multiple times over and over again, and then we'll be able to drag each one out individually. It's a little tedious, admittedly, but you do get to create that nice rounded shape afterwards. And I kind of like this method too. So just like this. And I do the same thing over and over again, almost at the top now. And the reason why you need all of these cuts ahead of time and you can't do them automatically is that when I use scale to move each one out to create the curve, it will actually drag out the top part completely to form almost a triangle top. So it's easier to create the cuts along the way. So I'm going to zoom in a bit more, and then I will hit B and select each line, and I will hit S to scale it out so that it fits the bottom part. And you see what I mean by triangle. If I had done one at a time, it would have done this to the whole piece. So then I hit B again, and I scale it out just like that. And I'm scaling it out. And then every time I hit B, I select, then I hit S, and I drag the cursor out to fit the round, click, and I hit A to deselect. That is, again, B, then I hit S, I drag out with the cursor, I match where the curve is, I click, and I hit A. And I do it again, and I keep doing this over and over again to each little line that I've done. And of course, it's up to you how many lines you'd like to put on there. Of course, the more lines you have, the more of a curve it will look like. The less lines, it'll be a little more boxy. But of course, that depends on how much time you'd like to spend doing this process. Personally, I kind of like it. It's a bit mind-numbing. It's the same process over and over again, even if it might give you a bit of a finger cramp while you're doing it on the touchpad. And drag out and click, deselect, select, scale out, click, deselect, and keep doing this over and over again. I think one of the greatest features or a great feature on Blender is the fact that if you do drag and it needs to be bigger, you don't have to keep moving the mouse over. It kind of, if you pull it over, it'll just switch automatically to the other side of the screen, which is really nice. so you don't have to worry about that. I know a lot of softwares don't actually include that as a function. And bring it out. Almost done here. And drag it out. And drag it out. So now you can see the round shape of the apple form, which is really nice. You can see that I've been using the right side as a guide and not the left side because this apple image that I'm using is a little bit uneven. So there we go. Now we have our apple shape. It's a nice little round. So let me switch back. So now what we'll do is we're going to create the little stem part. And what I will do is I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to go to create. I'm going to add a circle. So now what I'll do is I'm going to move him up a bit. I'm going to hit S and scale him down a little bit so he's just a little stem. I'm going to switch the view to top. So now I can see the top and ignore the fact that the apple image is not quite accurate now, but that's okay. We'll put the circle right in the middle. I'm going to switch the view again now, and I'm going to go to front. And I'm going to move the circle down a bit, so now it's just on the surface. I'm then going to make the face, so now it's a face. I'm going to deselect. I'm going to then only select its surface. So my circle was a little bit too close in there, so I'm going to move him up and just select his surface. Oops. There we go. Now what I'll do is we're going to go back to the front image, and I'm going to hit. So now I'm going to be using the spin tool to create a little bit of a nice stem for the apple. So you see the spin tool kind of brings it out and kind of rotates the piece in an interesting way. So it's kind of cool if you turn it around in a couple different ways, and it creates like an interesting little spin. So I think I'll keep it at that for now. It'll be an interesting shape stem. If I don't really like it that much and I want to cut it a little bit down a bit, I can select the parts that I don't want as much. See? And then I can delete. There we go. Now I've got a small stem. So now I'm going to, I'll move this over, and I'm going to go to my surface, and I'm going to hit new. You see the surface, in order to change the texture, it's this square with a checkerboard pattern on it. I'm going to scroll down to image, and I'm going to click open. So I have saved a small apple texture, and I'm going to click view as render. So now I'll be able to see my apple in this textured format. So then I'm going to go back to solid mode and object mode. And if you even want to see the apple now as the texture, you can click the texture form, and we will apply this texture to this guy. So if we click render view image, you can see what our apple would look like that. But first I'm going to set our apple to smooth shading. This way it looks all nice and smooth and all that. Now it looks nicer. So there we go. Now you got our nice little apple. Isn't it cute? He's so cute. So now we have this all set. And should be all set to go. I just need to, oops. So I forgot to save my texture, so that was a problem. Let me add that back. as material. Here we go. And we should be in texture mode. Good. Scroll down. Just make sure everything is set and it can see it. Okay. And now you can see our apple. So this is in render mode, and if you wanted to see the full apple, we'll need to select our camera and move him back a bit. I believe move him up a little and hit render image again. And now you can see a bit more of the apple. If you just move the light around then, we can see even more of it if we want. Let's move him back a little. Oops. And see how when I do it on here, you can actually see where the angle of where the light would hit it. Just kind of nice. So I have my camera selected accidentally too. So let me move him up and that way a bit. And if I do render image, there. Now you can see a much clearer view of the apple. So that is how you make the apple, and the spin tool is a bit fun to use. You can play around with that as well. So thank you for watching.